So, Pastor Mike, when thinking about building a warm community with young people, how does a church actually structure itself, or what does a church actually do to build this type of community?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing, and as a pastor in a church that was really wanting to build warm community, build intergenerational relationships, one of the things that we found is it actually doesn't start with structure. It starts with two things, I think, leadership and relationship.
Nice.
So the first thing is that I think the leadership of the church, from senior pastor all the way down, elders, whatever your leadership structure looks like, really needs to believe that that warm community for young people is important.
Yeah.
And that caring for young people and having adults who care for young people and are involved in their lives is a really important thing for the church to do, and everyone's bought in on that. I think that's a great place to start. I think the second thing is relationship. As a youth pastor, I know one of the things that I needed to learn how to do was build relationships with other adults in the church.
Yeah.
Because I knew really well how to build relationships with volunteers and
16-year-olds?
exactly,
Right,
students. But how do I build relationships with parents and with adults in the church who don't have kids? And have enough relational equity with them to be able to make the ask and say, hey, I think you would be great investing in the life of a 15-year-old.
Nice.
And I think what you're doing right now is what Johnny wants to do 10 years in the future. Can you spend some time together?
So you were really a matchmaker.
Absolutely. I think that if a youth pastor, a youth worker, volunteer leaders, if they know who the adults are in the church, they're better equipped to be able to connect some of these intergenerational relationships. Yeah, and mentoring programs can come out of that. I think you open the door for all kinds of really cool relationships.
Well, and as you're talking, I was thinking about your own journey. I mean, you're a lead pastor now, but in terms of leadership support of community and intergenerational relationships, I mean, your job title at your previous church was pretty fascinating. You want to explain that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. So I was hired to be the student integration pastor.
Yeah.
And the vision behind that role was it wasn't just going to be a youth pastor in the traditional sense, which was build a youth program off in the corner with a couple of volunteers who were crazy, keep the kids happy and make sure they love Jesus.
Yeah, and the parents happy.
And the parents happy, of course. That's really important. But it was, Mike, lead us and be the champion in helping our whole church care about young people, right? But also, let's go the other way. Let's figure out ways for young people to be involved in all the different areas of the church. So, so we asked some hard questions. What does that look like in a worship service?
Yeah.
And that's really hard.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are invested in what the worship service looks like. What does that look like on a mission trip? What does that look like in the parking lot, with your parking lot attenders? What does that look like at the coffee table? So we started asking all these questions, and what we found is that there were so many great opportunities for young people to serve and get involved, but really there's so many great opportunities for relationship. Because you have a young person that is serving coffee, and they're serving coffee next to an elderly person, right?
You pointed at me with elderly
No.
person.
I'm
I'm a little
just
offended by that. Okay.
There's someone out here. They're going to talk to each other. They're going to get to know each other. And you see some really beautiful stories where that young person is going through a difficult time, and pouring coffee next to an older adult, they start sharing about it, and that older adult says, "I'm going to pray for you this week," and they get to follow up next week because they're going to pour coffee together.
That's great.
So those are really, really some great things that can happen.
That's great.